There's something very solemn about the idea of a new year, isn't there? Just think of 365 whole days with not a thing happened in them yet. Hello my friends, and welcome to my January TBR video, as well as a few channel changes and random little announcements and stuff like that. Even though we are still at the end of December here, to me this video feels like a new start. It feels like a fresh slate because we're talking about January, so I've got those like new year vibes kind of filling in there. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my 2025 plans as far as this channel goes. Also, I'm sitting on a very squeaky chair, so any awkward squeaks are the chair. So I've mentioned in a video or two already here on this channel that I like to pick a word or two for the year. I feel like God lays a word or phrase sometimes on my heart, and this year it came to me pretty early that for 2025 my words were going to be slow and deep, and I'm really leaning into that in all areas of my life, including this channel. So for at least the start of the year, at least for January, I'll reevaluate as the year goes. I am planning on just doing one video a week here, which after Bookmas is a significant decrease, but it is my hope that the videos will be longer with more in them, and it just feels right to go with my word of slow and deep instead of constantly filming videos here. I've done this a few times in the past, and it's not necessarily my favorite way to post videos here, but I feel like that's what I need to do for at least January. And you'll notice with this video, I am going to be posting them on Sundays at 1 p.m. my time, which is Mountain Time. So later if you are in a different time zone, or earlier if you are in the Pacific time zone. I've never posted on Sundays really before, except at Bookmas. So this is different time. But hey, new year, trying new things, right? With the idea that I'm only going to be posting one video a week, I've realized that that means that my Read Your Bookshelf Challenge recommendation videos will not be videos. I'm gonna make a list prior to the month over on my Substack of recommendations for the next month's prompt. So I already do have a video for January's prompt, which is beauty, sharing books that I think would work really well for that. But from February on, I plan on just doing a post over on Substack. So make sure you are subscribed. It's always in the description so that you can see my list of recommendations. In addition, speaking of the different reading challenges that I have put up, I've started my story graph. I have not officially started tracking my books yet, but I've put up the Read Your Bookshelf Challenge on there, as well as the A Year of Maud reading challenge on there. So I will leave those linked below if you are on Storygraph and want to join in those challenges in that format. I honestly don't really even know how Storygraph completely works yet. That will be something for me to learn in 2025. Okay, let's get into my TBR, which I was debating on how I wanted to do this. This is a TBR, it's books I want to read, but it is also a pile of possibilities. I am not going to be strictly adhering to all of the books I put on this list because I create these lists, you know, a little bit before the month. I'm not necessarily in the mood to read all of these books, and I am a bit of a mood reader. I'm a little bit planned and a little bit mood reader. I'm kind of like ambivert as far as that goes. So there are some books that I will definitely read because they are for different reading challenges or various things where I kind of need to read them. But then there are also books that are like, I would like to read these, but if other books catch my eye instead, I'll read those, and eventually at some point in my life, hopefully I will go through all the ones that are on my pile of possibilities. So starting things out, let's start with the Dickens that I want to read in January. I've talked about this for a few months already. So at the beginning of 2024, I read The Pickwick Papers over January and February. I actually read it with Tiffany and Penny. They were so great to let me tag along with them. And I realized the best time for me to read a Dickens is January, when I don't have as much going on. And my plan is to read about a chapter a day, 10 pages-ish a day, until I complete it. So I'm going in publication order of books that I have not read that I do own, if that makes sense. So the next one on my list then is The Life and Adventures of Nicholas Nickleby. This is a decently large-sized book. It's over 600 pages, but it does have like the original illustrations, which, I mean, you can kind of get from the cover. They are not my favorite kind of illustrations, I'll just say, but it breaks it up and all of a sudden you have a page or two you don't have to read because there's a picture. So there's one of the illustrations. So this is the book that I will be starting January 1st, the first book of the year, and my plan is to not allow myself to read any other fiction books until I have put in my time and read my one chapter or 10 pages or whatever it may be of this. So in theory, I should be done around the end of February-ish, give or take a little bit. I have read a very abridged version of this. We follow Nicholas Nickleby, kind of obvious from the title. His father has died. He's trying to care for his mother and his sister, and they kind of get taken in by his uncle, but he's not really that nice of a guy. And yeah, I'm curious to see how like the full-length book is. I'm not a huge Dickens fan, but I do feel like his books are worth reading, so I'm going to be reading this starting in January. For my Read Your Bookshelf challenge, the prompt I already said for January is beauty. I have a list of book recommendations for you. I have decided that I'm going to pick a book for the Read Your Bookshelf challenge when I do my TBR, but that might not 100% stay the book that I read for the challenge. So right now, the book that I'm finding the most interesting on the books that I own is one that I own via ebook, and that is The Garden Girls by Jessica R. Patch. This is the third book in the Strange Crimes Unit series. I started the series in September or October, read the first two books, loved them, can't wait to finish it. I feel like the cover of this book is so beautiful. There are some really great deep faith conversations throughout at least the first two books, so I'm assuming it will continue for the third. So I'm very excited to read this one, and I most likely will put that down as my Read Your Bookshelf challenge book. Well, the only thing is I'm filming this a few days before January. It's going up before January. I'm trying to not read it before January. I'm trying to wait. The next book that I have to read in January is the A Year of Maud book, which is over here. I own numerous editions of Anne of Green Gables, but I'm going to be reading them out of my Tundra editions as we go through this readathon. So every month in 2025, I have a Lucy Maud Montgomery book that I will be reading. January, we're kicking off the Anne series. I don't feel like the series needs much of an introduction because most people have heard of Anne. She's an orphan who goes to live with his brother and sister. They think they're getting a boy to help with the farm, and they get Anne, who is, you know, very imaginative and sweet, but she has a bit of a temper, and she's very sensitive about her name needs to be spelled Anne with an E, and she is very sensitive about the color of her hair. And I read this book a few years ago. Honestly, I'm sad that it took me so long to read the entire series. Being Canadian, I feel like this is a rite of passage, and I'm glad I have read them all now, but it's so sad that it took me so long. So I will be going through and annotating. I didn't annotate this one at all when I read it last, so I'm excited about that. I may do a video or a short sharing somewhat of my annotations. If you guys are interested in that, let me know. What would you like to see? What format would you like to see it in? Any questions, etc. And I will be doing a live chat, what am I saying, video book club chat thing here on YouTube. And I have decided that that is going to be on, I wrote it down, Tuesday, January 28th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I'll leave those details below and you can convert to your own time zone. I will be talking about Anne of Green Gables. I'm going to reach out and see if there are some people that want to co-host. I have a co-host form on my original announcement video. If you guys are interested, you can quickly sign up there. And I'm just excited to be spending the year with Maud, spending 8 of those months with Anne, talking about it with the book community. So very excited about it. The last of my have to read books is Heart of the Sea by Mariah. I can't remember her last name. This is my Patron of the Month pick, which I realized this month. I'm scrapping the title Patron of the Month. My Patreon is called Rainbow Valley. It's all a nod to Lucy Maud Montgomery. The different tiers are named after the different Anne books. And so my Patron of the Month is now titled Kindred Spirit, which makes sense. So my kindred spirit for the month is Bethany, and she has a channel. I'll leave her linked below as well. And she picked out Heart of the Sea for me to read in January, which I'm excited because this could also work as a beautiful book because I think the cover is very beautiful. Okay, I own the ebook and I don't know if I've ever read the synopsis or anything about it. So what is it about? Sometimes you have to trust the one sent to destroy you in order to save the one you love. Willing to do whatever it takes to save her sister, Nerissa commandeers the ship of the notorious pirate Cyrus Crowe. But Crowe has a mission: kill Nerissa and earn his freedom from the queen who controls him half his life. However, Nerissa harbors powers over the sea, powers she can't control, powers that threaten to consume her. I've never read anything by this author. Hopefully I will love it. I often like to read the first sentence of the books that I'm going to be reading. I have forgotten to do that for the other ones, but let's start here. We'll start with the first sentence of Heart of the Sea. The first sentence is, I can never escape the water for long. Okay. I am not a water person, so I can't relate to that first sentence. Should we go back and read the first sentence of the books that I've done? Probably. The first sentence for Anne of Green Gables, I'm sure I've read it before. Oh yes, Mrs. Rachel Lynde lived just where the Avonlea main road dipped down into a little hollow, fringed with alders and ladies' eardrops, and traversed by a brook that had its source way back in the woods of the old Cuthbert place. It was reputed to be an intricate, headlong brook in its earlier course through those woods, with dark secrets of pool and cascade, but by the time it reached Lynn's Hollow, it was a quiet, well-constructed little stream, for not even a brook could run past Miss Rachel Lynde's door without due regard for decency and decorum. It probably was conscious that Mrs. Rachel was sitting at her window, keeping a sharp eye on everything that passed, from brooks and children up, and that if she noticed anything odd or out of place, she would never rest until she had ferreted out the whys and the wherefores thereof. Yikes. That is the entire paragraph. Is one sentence. Did I miss a period? No, I don't think so. Run on sentence much? Okay, that was that one. Garden Girls. Who drank the last of the coffee? Agent Tiberius Granger barked, holding up the empty coffee pot and waving it around the Strange Crimes Unit office. Okay, and Nicholas Nickleby. See, I would expect him to have a huge run-on sentence, not Lucy Maud Montgomery. Let's see. There once lived in a sequestered part of the country of Devonshire one Mr. Godfrey Nickleby, a worthy gentleman, who, taking it into his head rather late in life that he must get married, and not being young enough or rich enough to aspire to the hand of a lady of fortune, had wedded an old flame out of mere attachment, who in her turn had taken him for the same reason. Thus, two people who cannot afford to play cards for money sometimes sit down to a quiet game for love. See, that's a decently long sentence, but I feel like that has nothing on this book. Now let's see if I can remember to read the first sentence of the next books. So that is all for the books that I have to read in January, but I have more books that I would like to read that I would like to share with you. One of them is, it's Epistolary January. There's a bunch of ladies hosting a readathon all about epistolary novels. And I was thinking I should read Lady Susan for that, which is in here somewhere. It's a really short, it's like a novella, but it's all written in letters. It's like 60-ish pages long, I think. So I don't know anything about it, unfortunately, because it's just in this combined with Northanger Abbey, The Watsons, and Sanditon. I don't have a synopsis of it, but this is one of the books, the classics that I want to read this year. And did I put this on my 40 before 40? I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's definitely one of my classics for the year. So letter 1 is Lady Susan Vernon to Mr. Vernon. My dear brother, I can no longer refuse myself the pleasure of profiting by your kind invitation when we last parted, of spending some weeks with you at Churchill, and therefore, if quite convenient to you and Mrs. Vernon to receive me at present, I shall hope within a few days to be introduced to a sister whom I have so long desired to be acquainted with. Okay, so I'm assuming this is Susan Vernon is Lady Susan and we'll get her letters. Don't really even know what to expect, but I feel like I've read all the main Jane Austen. This one is super short, so it should be a breeze to get through. Easy enough classic to check off. The other book I had written down that I wanted to read in January, and I don't remember why I said January, The Lines Between Us by Amy Lynn Green. I think it's Ashley from Ashley's Bookshelf that mentioned this would be good for January. Is it? This one's not told in letters, is it? Oh, it has some letters. So this is a World War II story of courage and conviction based on the true experience of the men who fought fires as conscientious objectors and the women who fought prejudice to serve in the Women's Army Corps. That's right. I have been 50-50 with the two Amy Lynn Green books that I've read. Loved the first one that I read, Things We Cannot Say. I can never remember the title of it. Was very disappointed in Blackout Book Club. So having low expectations but still being excited about this one. Let's see, I guess it does start with letters. So this must be why I had it for January. The prologue is a letter from Gordon Hooper to Dory Armitage, November 25th, 1941. Dear Dory, when a girl asks a fellow to write to her, is one day after leaving too soon to send the first letter? The book of hers that I enjoyed is told just through letters and different writing like that, so I feel optimistic that I will like this one. Hoping so. I am part of a Christian booktuber book club that gets a prompt each month, and sometimes I read the book, sometimes I don't. This year we're doing it a little bit differently. Katie has shared a video explaining all the details. I have not watched it yet. It's on my watch later, but I'll leave it linked below in case you guys want more details. But for January, the prompt is a fairy tale retelling, and I have a bunch of fairy tale retellings that I could read, but I don't know which of them are Christian retellings, you know? So I don't have a book for this, but it's on my radar. I will probably host a live discussion at some point in the year with one of the prompts. That kind of all remains to be seen. To keep going here, another book I would really like to read in January is Truth Cursed by Angie Dickinson. This is coming out in February, so seems like the perfect time to get it in before it comes out. Speaking the truth can be a dangerous thing. This is a YA fantasy where we follow Cressida Hoth is alone in the world, orphaned and unwanted. Oh yeah, She is inflicted with a peculiar curse by her mischievous aunts and banished to a finishing school in the secluded kingdom of Durnmont. Students train in every accomplishment suitable for young ladies: music, dancing, etiquette, and strangely, poison making, fencing, and lockpicking. The school is a front for a rebel spiring, and when her training is complete, she's selected to join a mission to infiltrate the kingdom's royal court. I love the whole, I don't know if it's a trope, it doesn't happen a ton, but the idea of a young lady school that doubles as like a setting for spies and stuff. Like the Gallagher Girls series, I read that series, well, I read the first book as an adult, and it was fine, but I think I would have loved it as a teenager. So I'm excited to read this. It has a map, which I feel like needs to be shown. Maps are always good in books. Part 1, Chapter 1. I was only 8 years old when my aunts cursed me. Oh, that's a good first sentence. Yes, so once again, will I wait till January, or will I read it yet in December? We will see. Couple more that I would love to read in January. This book, oof, I can't get it. If I do not read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by the end of the winter, I think I have to get rid of it. I've talked about it so much in the last few months because I started it last fall, read 320 pages, have read no more. So it's set in 1806. England is at war with Napoleon. There are magicians. Yeah, I don't know. And it's so interesting the comments you guys leave every time I talk about it. It's split very 50-50. A lot of you love it, a lot of you DNF'd it or were bored or something or other. Apparently it was a fantasy prompt I was supposed to read this for a while ago. The first chapter sentence goes, some years ago, there was in the city of York a society of magicians. It was a very gothic, atmospheric, dark academia, cozy type read. Something perfect for, you know, anywhere from October to like February. So I'm putting it on the list. My stack is very crooked because these books are not even. Hopefully it doesn't fall on me. This one I feel like it needs to be read in January, and I've been waiting for January. It's Winter, White and Wicked by Shannon Dedamore. I have started this book before and it was on audio and I just couldn't get into it. So I was hoping that reading it physically will help. So we've got a girl named Sylvie who's been twice orphaned, and this is a fantasy book in a different world, but there are trucks. And for some reason my brain really struggled with this. But since then, I guess it's more dystopian. I was gonna say I've read The Chaos Grid, which feels similar in some ways, except that's in the heat and this is in the cold. So hopefully I can get through this. But Sylvie has chipped out a niche for herself on Lacey, an island cursed by eternal winter. Alone in her truck, she takes comfort in two things: the solitude of the roads and the favor of winter, an icy spirit who has protected her since she was a child. I'm hoping I can get into it. The prologue is Winter's always talking. So we'll see. Second try for that one. I currently have this book out from the library and I feel like I should read it in January. Cold Threat by Nancy Mell. This is the second book in the Ryland and St. Clair series. I read the first one a long time ago, like I had forgotten that I had read it. So I don't remember much, but I think they are part of the FBI. So it's like they're private investigators. Okay, so 20 years ago, several people were murdered, and the only evidence left behind was a snowman ornament hanging ominously on a tree in the victim's front lawns. With a suspect behind bars, the killings have come to an end, or so everyone thought. But now crimes with a similar MO are happening in a small town, and a local detective believes the killer's back. So we've got River Ryland and Tony St. Clair that are private investigators. Wow, I don't remember reading the first book, so hopefully I enjoy this and it, like the characters come back to me. Let's read the first sentence. December, 24 years ago, so starting in December. It seems like it's a good winter read. I watched as fire devoured the house as if it were a living, breathing monster, ravenous for death and destruction. Well written for a sentence. Definitely a little creepy. The last physical book I want to put on my December potentials here is Guardian by Kathy McCrum. This is the third book in the Children of Consortium series. This would finish the series off, which I would really like to be able to do. This is set in space. We've got, our main character is a recorder who is supposed to be unbiased, just recording events, but right at the beginning of the first book, something happens and her drone that helps her stay neutral by giving her like an electrical shock when she's not, is destroyed. And so she's now been able to like have feelings, which she hasn't been able to do. So the first sentence says, Sub-zero surface air hissed through the closing hangar doors. It's sulfur burning my nose and it's cold creeping through my inadequate black jacket. So I loved book 1. I was overwhelmed by characters in book 2, and I'm hoping that it's all good again in book 3. This is definitely another potential for the Read Your Bookshelf challenge for me because I think this cover is gorgeous. I love the vibrant colors of the books. Why are we, okay, hopefully that hasn't been blurry for too long. The whole series, the colors are super vibrant. Okay, that's the last of the physical books, so hopefully we're safe there. I've got 2 more ebooks that I would like to get to. The first one is A Lady's Guide to Marvels and Misadventure. I really enjoyed that title. This is one I've been curious about for a while. It says, when Clara's ex-fiance spreads rumors that her family suffers from hereditary insanity, is all she can do to protect them from society's prejudice. However, that proves to be difficult when her grandfather takes off on a flight of fancy. Thrown together with a vagabond tinkerer, Clara sets off on a whimsical adventure and finds the love that defies the odds. So I think this is a Gaslamp fantasy, super, I don't remember all the, there was definitely a buzzword. Some people that I am friends with on BookTube didn't enjoy it, and then there was like a buzzword, and I can't remember if it was Gaslamp or what it was, that they didn't like it because of that. I think maybe because it's kind of science fiction-y, and I was like, that's exactly why I am interested. So let's see if we can get to the first sentence. For Miss Clara Marie Stanton, the task of preventing her family from being committed to an asylum had become as commonplace as it was exhausting. That's good. I like that. Okay, I'm up for that. And then what was the other one? Oh yes, I had one more book that I wanted to add, but it's not working right now, so I guess I'll skip that one for now. So I guess that is my TBR for the month of January. Books that I have to read and want to read, as well as books that I like might read if I'm in the mood for them. Let me know what you guys are planning on reading in January. I'm very excited to hear what kind of books you guys are gonna read for what to me is the coldest month of the year. Are you reading books that feel cold? Are you reading books that feel warm? What are you in the mood for January? Let me know.